Hey guys, my name is Nathan, and for my interview, I actually talked with a buddy of mine named Josh who goes to school down at DVC. And Josh has been studying both theater and English for quite a while. He's been involved with the drama program at DVC for a number of years, and it was awesome talking with him for like 45 minutes just because it gave me a chance to ask, where have you come from? Where are you going? What have you learned along the way? What is something that you could pass on to somebody new who's just trying to break into drama? And so for Josh specifically, he obviously took English all the way through high school, but then he also took a number of theater classes, one of which was live acting, another of which was film acting. Live acting is obviously acting live. It's what you would think of as like traditional acting with a stage, versus film acting is much more modern. It has the cameras. It's like what you'd see on almost for a movie. And so I had a chance to ask him, which one did you like more? Which one did you like less? Why? Pros and cons of each. And for him, he said that it's really hard to answer which one he liked more, just because they were so different and they both offered very unique things. With live acting, you have a much more emotional connection to the piece because you're actually on stage. You have a relationship with the audience. They respond to things, and you can kind of like live off the vibe. Versus film acting is you have a lot more options. With lighting and camera angles and post edit, there's a lot more that you can do to kind of convey different stuff. And so he's like, yeah, it's just different. And so he likes both of them equally. And I was like, all right, that's fair. Um, and then I chatted with him a little bit about the drama program at DVC. And I was like, okay, for, of everyone who's at the DVC program, how many of them are really invested in and trying to pursue drama? And how many of them are just there kind of recreationally? And he was like, honestly, it's like most things. You have some kids who are super committed, and then some kids who are just there kind of recreationally. And so his words were, you have the drama kids, and then you have the kids who do drama. And the drama kids are obviously the ones who are super invested. They have multiple rehearsals, a week. They're going to rehearsal 5, 6, 7 times a week. They may have multiple auditions a day sometimes. They are taking classes at DVC, but then they have external coaching outside of DVC. And then you can compare that with the kids who do drama, who are much more lax about everything. They sometimes struggle with timeliness or memorizing their lines. They're just not as dedicated. And so those are the ones who just kind of use it as a social outlet. And I said, okay, taking those kids out. And one of the things too is that he mentioned, so it's really hard to say like how many of the kids there are really committed and how many of them are there recreationally, just because different kids are at different places. Like at the beginning of the year, like one kid will be super committed and he'll be the kid who does drama, but then that'll sort of fade out as the year goes on and they kind of discover like, oh, maybe I'm not as serious about drama as I thought I was. Like it was fun in high school, it was great, I loved it, I was all about it, but now that I'm getting into college, realizing I'm not quite as invested as I thought. Versus there are other kids who, they come in and they're like, hey, I'm just here because somebody recommended it, thought it'd be fun, but then they get like acclimated, and then they really love it, and then they grow. And so he's like, so it's really hard to answer, how many of the kids are super dedicated, how many of them are not committed, just because different people are there at different times. And I was like, all right, that's valid. But let's just say, of the kids who are committed, how many of them do you think are really going to go on to major productions and actually like be on stage in New York or Chicago or LA, be on Broadway, versus how many of them, are just going to be involved with theater and find different roles? Because like we know like movies, right, where you have the main characters of like Mark Wahlberg or Samuel L. Jackson or Leonardo DiCaprio, some of these like major names, and then you have a bunch of different actors who are all in B films and you've never heard of them. So I was like, okay, how many of the kids who are in the drama program are gonna be the next Mark Wahlberg of Broadway, and then how many of them are gonna be this supporting character that you've never heard of? And he was like, dude, it is super, super competitive. And like you can have one role available and you'll have 50 people apply. 50 people will show up for auditions. And he's like, it gets to the point where you don't even get a callback and you just don't hear for a director anymore. Because a lot of times directors will have a very specific like role that they want. And so they're looking for a person who can fit that role. And so it's not even like how good of an actor are you? It's, are you a great actor who fits the role of what we're looking for? Now, if you're a phenomenal, just like mind-boggling good, sometimes they'll change their perspective a little bit to try and accommodate you. But for the most part, you have to go in trying to fit what they're asking for. And I was like, man, that's harsh. So with though, like knowing that it's extremely competitive, how much of it is like truly raw talent that like gets you there, or how much of it is hard work. Because like with sports, you can have somebody who just is phenomenally talented. They walk on the field and they crush it and they become MVP, and then you have the next person who has the heart and the desire and puts in a lot of hard work, and they basically get like most improved. And obviously, there's a element where when like hard work will beat talent when talent doesn't work hard. But where does kind of like that line? Where is that line basically? And he's like, no, definitely when you're like younger, at like middle school or elementary school productions, it's a lot of talent. But as you go on, like it has to be hard work. Like there is truly an element of skill that's required. And so, and that's one of the things that triggered me to ask him. I was like, like with fake crying, you see that on stage or like you see that in movies. How much of that is real and how much of that is like resources? Like have some like hot tamales before you go in, and so like your eyes are watering, versus like how much of that is like truly like I can cry on demand. And he's like, that's absolutely skill set. Like there's some people who can just do it fun, like really, really well all on their own. Like there was one girl who's great at it, can cry out of both eyes and just naturally can do that. But for the most part, it's just a skill like anything else. And so if you work hard enough at it, if you have the right coaching, if you have the right resources, like you can do it. And he said the other thing too, like trying to get into theater, is you really have to have the right connections, because it doesn't matter how good of an actor you are if you don't know anybody. Like it's really, really hard to get your name out there. And so that's where like you could be an actor, but then you be doing a lot of like tech support or working on like sets just to be able to be around so that people will like recognize you. And so that's where he's like, yeah, a lot of times like I'm at DVC plays so that I can like get the skills and like be recognized a little bit. But then on his off times, he's going to like Lusher Center of the Arts, excuse me, in Walnut Creek, just so that he can start getting around the different people who work there so that he can be recognized. And so that's kind of what I learned most about him. Like personally, he was motivated by theater just because it's a way that you can connect and to express yourself. And his biggest goal is he's like, I just want to be able to influence people, and sometimes if I can, change their perspective. Not drastically necessarily, like I don't need everybody to think the same way that I do, but if I have an opportunity for people to have a little bit of a change of perspective and just think about things, not even if they change their mind, but just bring things to awareness that they can think about stuff. And I thought that was really cool. So yeah, it was a great conversation that I had with him.